Hi, I'm Meenakshi Shedde. I'm here with the team of the fantastic film Vaghachipani, Tiger's Pond, that had a world premiere at the Berlin Film Festival, the 75th Berlin. This is Natesh Hegde, director of the film. This is Anurag Kashyap, who's presenter and producer of the film. Jeremy Chua, who's creative producer. Ranjan Singh, producer. We had a very, very warm reception at its world premiere. So what were your expectations and what did you feel of the response to Berlin?
The response is really overwhelming. I was blank. I just made my film and I was okay to receive anything coming from audience.
But I mean, your Pedro, so it's a second feature after Pedro, and Pedro had already been around the world. So were you expecting that there should be at least that kind of audience? Did you have any expectations of the audience in Berlin?
Not really. Like, it's just you make your film. That's the crucial part. Everything else is part and parcel.
So lovely. Yeah. So lovely. And Anurag, I'd like to ask you, so this is a very unusual raft of producers on, very rare that we see it in Kannada cinema at least. And what was it that appealed to you about the film? And it means so much to I'm sure you get 1,000 people pestering you, Anurag, 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 like produce my film. What appealed to you about this?
I think I was hustled into it by Natesh. What appealed to me was first just like Natesh. I met him in Busan. I saw Pedro and I loved Pedro. And Natesh has been very much a part of a lot of things. This is like actually our third coming together.
Ooh,
but Rifle Club.
Yeah.
Where we had such a good time shooting for Rifle Club. He played my henchman. We acted together.
This is a Malayalam film that was out this year.
We were co-actors together. Then I brought him in for my film, to act in my film, and then
which you will see shortly at some point.
Yeah, and then it was like this, and it's like it's a given. It's like you don't look for whether this film will work on the box office or not working. You know, this voice matters to me. So it's like you just support the voice. That matters. There's nothing else, because the amazing thing about him is like you can see in his film, he's a filmmaker who's finding his own language, refining with film after film, and has a voice which is very distinct, and that's all that matters for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So wonderful. It's fabulous that you're doing that. So the film is very briefly, would you like to tell us about the film, what it's about?
I think you will...
No. The audience needs to know what your film is about from your side. Yeah.
So it's a story set in my Western Ghats, my village. So it's about...
which is Shirshi, no?
Yeah,
Karnataka.
it's Sirsi. Sirsi is a small town, but my village is Mavinkatta actually. You can't find it in Google Maps.
Okay.
So it's about this young shepherdess, Pati, and Prabhu, the politician, and all the other characters. So I don't know what else is film about.
To me, actually, it explores many themes to do with power, ambition, definitely caste. And at the center is this Pati, who is a mentally challenged person, very vulnerable, and a lot of horrific things happen as a consequence of power and caste. The dynamics that he observes very closely. But I'd like to ask Jeremy Chua, who is huge body of work and internationally acclaimed, and he was also key producer on Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell that won the Camera d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. And you saw this film at Busan, or yeah? Tell us about what was your first connection with Natesh, and how did you decide to come on board?
I discovered the project at Busan APM's Project Market, and Natesh was pitching...
the Asian Project Market, yeah.
Yeah, and Natesh was pitching the project, and I was also with another project. And I remember...
You were also pitching?
I was, a separate project.
Yeah.
We were rivals at the...
Okay.
And we won everything.
And one of my good friends and trusted Indian film experts, Dipti, told me...
Dipti?
Yes.
Dikuna?
Yes, Dikuna. Told me, if you haven't watched Pedro, go watch it. And now the director's a new film, so I think I asked for a link. And I usually like to work with someone whom I feel I instinctively understand what they try to do on a more wavelength, like philosophical and artistic wavelength.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like Natesh was someone who was ready to expand what that meant to him. And I like to have dialogue with filmmakers, to ask them questions like a dramaturg, like why do you make this choice? And whenever you hear Natesh explain his decisions, you just understand that he knows what he's talking about. Like there is a reason why this is crafted this way. There is a life that he has lived that he's trying to share with me that I thought I knew, but actually there's something new. So for me, that was the most important, like the deeper thinking and emotion behind why he does what he does. It could actually have been any story. I think because coming from his lens, I've learned to trust it about what he wants to say about his world today.
So that's more important to you than how the story finally pans out, or the creative decisions, or are you part of a longer journey? I mean, I'm guessing this is just the initial part. And in what way are you involved? Or what does creative producer mean? The audience doesn't always know what that means.
I think it's also preparing the filmmaker for the moment they're presenting it to the audience. Because the audience is not there for bullshit. They can smell inauthenticity. They can smell fake very quickly. And getting the filmmaker ready to defend his choices is also something that is there from pre-production. You must know why you make what he makes. And when he explains the choice of the color, the choice of the camera, and when he shoots it, you know that there is a thought process, and then you know that, okay, in his mind, he's making a work. But from a producer's perspective, we're already thinking about, okay, how are we going to position it so that you can help someone's career get to that next level? And so, because I come from gallery background, and in the fine art world, you're always selling the artist before, and then you talk about the approach, and then the work.
Wow, nice.
So
nice.
to tell
nice.
the programmers who is Natesh to me is more important than this is the plot. That is
Which
what
is
happens.
Also something you connected with, I think.
Yeah. So I
Lovely.
think that's why when you believe in someone, it's same reason. I think you just know that you believe in it. It's
fantastic. But you said something very interesting. You said that one of your roles is to prepare him for the audience. This is a loaded statement for me. It's very precious, of course. Can you explain a little more what that means with examples, perhaps?
I think when I speak to programmers or producers or other people talking about film, they are very specific. What works, what doesn't work for them, for their perspective, for their crowd, for their market, etc. And when the question's asked, I try to make it also help the director understand that if he makes this choice, maybe this opens up these possibilities, but maybe some possibilities close as well. And it's just so that the filmmaker... Can
you give us examples in your... I mean, you don't have to take names, but you're just trying to understand in real terms what this might mean, because it's
rhythm, for example.
So sorry?
Rhythm. Rhythm, pace, the choice of how you even shoot. For example, some directors like to have 6 shots to cover. Natesh doesn't. He just shoots to edit. So you really can't mess with the structure. And that's a very specific choice, because people who like and appreciate that he construct the image like a montage theory, with this kind of quite overtonal but also intellectual approach. It's something that people who like it and appreciate it are going to be more drawn to it. But you might lose the people who like the coverage, who like the reaction shot, who like the explanation of what happens in the background and the establishment. And once you sort of know where he fits, then it's easy to also take him along this journey, like who he should talk to, who are the people that align with him, etc. So that's like one example of like...
Wonderful. And was it easy for you to shepherd into
I think
Berlin?
yes, because we share a similar interest in cinema. We like the similar kind of films, and actually when I see how he plans the shots, I know he doesn't plan too much, but he just has an image that I also like. And that's you don't always have that.
How do you know that? You don't know storyboarding and stuff? Not really.
No, he knew the script.
I know you're talking of image just now, right?
Like for example, the first shot of Pedro, that white shot in the jungle when the vehicle comes. The first scene of a film sets so much.
The tone,
and you just know how it's.
Sorry. The rains.
It's you just get understand his language. I think I understood it quite easily, and I told him actually even before I read the project, I wrote an email saying that, oh Natesh, I really love your film, and Diti shared it with me with a link, and I think that's how we first connected. That he trusted me also, that I didn't just want to come on a Natesh bandwagon, but I understood what he was trying to do.
Lovely. So this, all of this happened at Busan APM or later?
Before.
Yeah, before.
Before.
Okay.
Busan is
Okay.
the handshake.
Okay. Sealing it. Ranjan, you've been with a whole range of films, also Anurag's Kennedy at Cannes, etc., etc. This is like the kind of 180-degree opposite, but of course that's what a producer's journey is about, doing different kinds of things, very different risks, risk-taking. And I really appreciate when you support independent cinema like this, because it's really a distinctive voice. Even for me, when we see hundreds of films, this is so special, and Smelling of the Earth, and really, for me, he really gets that the hyper-local is universal for me. He totally gets it. But to you as a producer, what was the appeal and what were the challenges?
Yeah, so this film I got in when the offline cut was all ready, and I saw the film, and almost everything worked, like how Jeremy mentioned about the first frame. See, overall, it's that whole thing about it has this fableish quality, and these are the stories which we've heard while growing up, but they are missing, and I've been repeating this, but it's definitely missing from the Bombay film.
For sure.
And even though it's in Kannada, which is a language which I've never worked with or I'm not much familiar with, but it was just not there. Like while you were watching the film, you almost got all the nuancing, all the detailing, every emotion appealed to you, and the way he is shot, like he said, 16 mm, and I think everything is just coming together to tell that story very importantly.
So every face.
Every face was also a story.
Yeah.
I just want to say every casting choice.
Yeah.
Every individual things was a story.
Very. Also that girl, particularly because her story is like without words, right?
The
Pati.
lengths he went to
Yeah.
get her
Get
to
that.
be in that.
Tell us how he cast Pati. Pati is the mute girl, mentally challenged. Yeah.
She's from she's Sumitra. She's from my village.
Okay.
She's my schoolmate,
Oh.
younger to me.
Okay.
Like she knew me and my father, so it happened like this. Like all my AD and we are wrecking. So initially we thought of casting an actor, but I really hate this. Mentally disabled acting. That's
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So then we were traveling, and all of a sudden, all the guys said, "See, Pati is there." So she was, walking roadside.
Okay.
So then it stuck. Like it's her.
Okay.
We have to do it somehow.
It's instinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And then we went to her house and we asked them. We explained the story and everything.
Yeah.
So she said, they said,
What is her profession otherwise? She's a non-actor, I'm guessing.
no, she's a village girl. Like,
Correct. Okay.
She discontinued her education. So
Okay.
she's now in
At
the house.
Okay.
So they said, if she agrees, then you can
Okay.
make her act.
Okay.
I just asked her.
Yeah.
I don't know why she believed me, the same way my father believed me.
It's incredible.
She said, I'll do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Because she's such an anchor of the whole film.
Yes, she's the.
Very
she's the
powerful,
anchor.
and for me it's extraordinary. It's a role without words. This
Yeah.
and still to be such a powerful anchor.
Can't
So he has a
forget her
real
face.
presence, no?
I can't forget.
But her face, yeah, and especially at the end when you tell me a little bit about the process of writing the screenplay, because there are some very powerful issues there. And to me, one of the many, apart from the politics, of course, is the caste, the issue of caste. And I find it very interesting because you kind of bring in a couple of layers in caste. So one of the so there is this kind of villainish political leader who's very ambitious and wants to win the elections, but one of the low caste guys is really very ordinary person played wonderfully by his dad Gopal Hegde, who also has no acting experience as such except Pedro. I'm guessing that was his first film, or he's acted otherwise, right? There was one film. And otherwise, they are in farming and electrician. That's also his real job, which he was in Pedro as well. So there's an incredible reality that he brings to the role. But he was the guy who stands up to the landlord, and he actually says a line which I never thought I would. You almost never hear it in Indian cinema when there's some ratty stuff going on with corrupt cops, he actually tells him, you arrest the right culprits, otherwise I'll file an atrocity case. Now, there are millions and millions and millions of caste atrocities happening in India, but you almost never hear of someone saying that I'm going to file this against you, and a powerful guy. So what was it that led you to this line? Because for me, it's a very resonant line. And on the other point, you have this Malbari. I'm guessing for you how it may have appealed with the nuance of caste, with Malbari being another character who's also low caste and really not on the same wavelength in terms of his articulateness about, or his agency about caste, right? So were these very conscious decisions to explore different nuances of caste, because they're both key in the story?
Yes. So there is two questions I'll answer.
Yeah,
One about, I don't differentiate these different departments. The way I write and the way I design the shot and the way I cast, so everything is one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I'll bring this layer in the script. So I write the way like how I'm seeing the film. So it includes camera movement, edit, dialogue, sound, everything.
Wow.
But that's 30 page.
Yeah.
And also it's for me, economy is what matters. You don't need a paragraph of dialogues.
True.
Yeah, you're saying that he is educated in that village compared to other.
Yeah.
So he knows that there is an he can put atrocity case. So with that one line, it defines his position in the village.
Correct.
And his educational background and everything.
Right.
So it's.
And tell us about Malbari's character. Who's
Malbari for me, I was thinking
so Malbari is a kind of loyal sidekick of the main landlord who's very ambitious.
Yeah, I casted Dilesh.
Potan places wonderfully. Yeah.
Dilesh, because one he don't talk the language Kannada, so without doing anything, he's a misfit in the village. So. And in every scene, he's trying to prove that I'm belonging here.
Yeah.
And also his worship towards Prabhu. He's trying to prove it. So this language, he can't speak Kannada, is helping me doing all this.
Wonderful.
So that's why, and also, what is Kannada? That's also a Kannada. Okay? A Malayali talking Kannada is also a Kannada.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Although not everyone will get it, you will get it, but
but that's there.
Yeah.
We can't be purist about language.
Not at all. But these nuances were very detailed. So Anurag, I wanted to ask you, what was your role in terms of supporting or shaping or guiding?
Anything, because I had a thought and I said
please.
it. I interrupted what he was saying.
Sorry, please.
No, I interrupted last time what he was saying with the thought. I'm saying, so I would like
Please.
you to go back to him, because my role was nothing. My role was connecting the two and saying I'm there.
Okay.
And saying I'm there because Ranjan is not just somebody who's been doing my films or this one. He's really, I think, produced the most number of short films and found the most number of young new voices, and he keeps doing that. And I have this trust in him that he knows what he's doing, so I go with it. And I also, his whole vast experience of setting up cinemas and marketing and everything. Yeah. He knows exactly. I don't understand I know films.
Yeah.
But I know that then he will say, be here, be there, do this, do that, and I'll do it. So it becomes easy. So my thing was to just connect Natesh with him first.
Fantastic.
So he's the one, you should ask him.
So tell us more in terms of, like Jerry explained, preparing him for this was very articulate way of a host of things that need to actually guide somebody to make that final point. So tell us about your journey. I want to hear about the challenges. And because it's actually, for me, very unusual and thrilling to have someone, of course, your work has been very daring and risk-taking, but someone from Bollywood, so to speak, with this exquisitely distinctive Kannada, small town thing. What were your challenges and how did you guide the project?
So, like how Jeremy said that, he needs to prepare the filmmaker for, like the curators, programmers. For me, it's the film. How do we take that film and to take it to this widest possible audience?
Yeah.
Now I started doing that with docus when like Superman of Malegaon
Yeah.
and Leaving Home. I remember we got Ang Lee's docu Taking Woodstock to India in India, and we released it in theaters.
Oh my.
Katyabas and stuff. So there is a lot of learning which has happened.
We also had here, I mean,
Yes.
thrilling documentary on electricity theft in Kanpur.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what he's been backing. Incredible.
So, so the thing is, there has been a lot of learning. The thing is, we do make a lot of films in India, but I think in terms of cinema literacy, there is some gap,
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is because, Bollywood is this big, monster. You need to find your space. Now, I have come from there, and I can probably, find that space for smaller films. How to go to theaters, how to make sure that, the film gets, it reaches the correct, people who can then probably buy it. It's the same with shorts, like there's no fixed model.
Yeah.
But I have been able to make it because overall somewhere I still think that most of the films that I have shots I've made have been able to recover their cost. So you keep
amazing.
doing it. Yeah.
That's
And
the toughest genre, I would think.
yeah. So so again, like, so you have to find out the space, the positioning, and how to take this film. That's the number one job. Like even with Vaghachipani, like it's 24 hours since the premiere. But to tell this story to the world, and especially back home. And I've been watching films, I've been seeing other films' journey from the film festivals. But, the gap always remains.
Yes.
You have to make sure what is happening here reaches their real time. We had experienced this fully live in Masan.
Okay.
When Masan's premiere just ended.
Was at Cannes.
Cannes.
Festival, yeah.
And the way we had put out the news in the next 10, 12 hours that, the kind of reception that film got, which is what then translated. And then suddenly, so every film will have a story. You have to find that theme. Like Masan became that film that made India proud.
Right.
Of course, it won the Fipreschi and everything, which helped.
Yeah.
But so these are the things which, like Anurag said, a lot of directors might not get. They know how to make great films. But, in today's times, where your attention span is, really limited, and every morning you could just get 24 hours of it, you need to ensure that you are there the first thing to, occupy that. And which is what then helps, the more wider, like, when I started doing it, I don't think we would have ever, like Faiza, the director of Superman.
So big social media then, it was
No,
such a big thing.
yeah. And imagine how tough that time was.
Yeah,
like
but
Faiza
okay.
never thought that, that docu can release in theaters. It did.
This was
And
the Superman of Malaga.
yeah, and I can say it on record, it made money. Like a year later, Faiza sent me a small check and she said, we have made profits on the film.
Unbelievable, so thrilling.
So that comes from, like I used to work at PVR in the distribution, like Bheja Fry still remains the most profitable independent film ever.
Wow.
And the producer Sunil Doshi had just confirmed it a year back at Mami,
Wow.
So you put all this together, you make sure that the smaller film or the festival film or whatever word there is, you try and take it to the biggest audience possible. And there is, because, I come from my own learning. When we were growing up, we would watch every film. And there was no talk of, how much box office this has done.
I find it very gross, actually.
Yeah, it's, I don't want to name it, but somebody, the moment they used that for the marketing of anything, earlier we would just go and like, that film might work for you, might not work for me.
that's
But
okay.
today you would talk about, Friday, itna opening, then only it might be a good film. No, that's just not correct. That is the job. So we take the film to the widest, and those are the challenges. One, of course, is the funds. But I think somewhere the experience helps, so we can find out some way, and that remains the biggest challenge.
That's very, very insightful. Thank you for sharing that. Jeremy, I was a little concerned. Just asking because it's too new. It's only its first festival at the world premiere. In general, are you concerned from the range of films that you made about films that are very hyper local and very invested in a local culture, being seen as not having, like, catering to a Western gaze or having certain elements which they know will appeal, which I don't find in this. But in general, because you're dealing with very multicultural work, and where does this stand in your work in general? What are your concerns or, the kind of feedback you might get in terms of catering to a gaze? For me, it absolutely does. It's emphatically its own gaze. Like, he doesn't care. He's telling the story he wants to tell. But from a larger perspective that you're talking about, and Ranjan is talking about, and Anurag is talking about, you're looking at the picture beyond. So can you share a little insight on that?
Yeah, I guess the angle that I usually go for is that when you watch a film, actually, you know a piece of the director's life, you know a bit of their personality, their way of thinking, the way they see the world. And of course, because this is partly set in his home ground, you kind of feel like you know where he comes from. And a lot of times filmmaking is a very urban, big city activity. I mean, not to say only elites, but it's generally for people who have better education, better opportunities. And to see a story set in something more remote or something less obvious, I think there is something that reminds us about the world. That does modernity, is that all it is? Like, is that all we strive for? I think these films are important so that people remember that, especially Asian people, that we are mostly farmers, seafarers, farmers. We are not really modernists in that sense. And I think that kind of how we treat our experience with time, how we experience human connections, I think only can be told when it's not those city-centric films that could feel that it follows maybe a bit more Western narrative structure or narrative expectation. And so the complexity lies in the characters who are not so obvious. And then you can go back to the director who has this kind of point of view, who observes the world from a different lens. And if we talk about diversity in cinema, if we talk about representation, then all the more we should try to highlight these differences more than think of them as like, oh, that's a other cinema. It's more like we should not.
Range.
Yeah, I think globalization may have made us to. I call it the Taylor Swift effect.
The what? Sorry.
Taylor Swift effect.
Meaning?
Like, she's not the best singer, but but she makes 2 billion in tour. But is Taylor Swift the best writer? Is she the best singer? But globalization makes marketing tell us you must be a Swiftie because she's a pop star and she is popular and you must like her. And I think that's when commercial people have too much to say about who gets to see what. And I think that's what festivals like Berlin or like other festivals do, is that there's other things to see as well. There's other people living different lives that you can and the transportation of cinema, this voyage of what it is it becomes more real, I guess.
Wonderful. That is so interesting.
I just want to add
Please.
the thing is, when I was in Sirsi studying, I watched Kiarostami, and I felt I know this guy. A guy from Iran. When I watched Mizoguchi, I felt I know this person. When I watched Fassbinder, I felt I know this person. Even when I watched Anurag's film, I felt like I know Anurag before meeting him. So that gave me the courage.
It's personal.
Yeah.
That's why you've always taken me for granted.
Yes. And I knew him from before. So I also expect that from the audience. Like, I'll be so honest so that they'll feel that they know me.
So lovely. I think one of the things that I really cherish about you and your work is that I've never sensed that you had an inferiority complex from not going to film school and being in Bangalore all the time and growing up there and stuff, and celebrating who you are in the town and its characters with all its flaws and everything. This is who we are. But that absolute confidence, right? I've never sensed even an iota that, I need Anurag, or I need these guys. I'm sure you would make it anyway, and they are just helping you. This is my feeling. They're helping you reach a large audience, but you would tell your stories anyway. Where is that absolute confidence in who you are without film school and anything? It's very precious. So would like to know where that comes from.
Because I grew up on road. That gives you the courage.
What do you mean by that?
Because you face everything and you don't have anything to lose. It's not just about cinema. The life you live gives you the courage.
That's the most incredible thing. Like, we are asking, like, what if everything goes wrong?
Yeah.
What if everything fails? I go back to exactly where I came from.
Sorry?
I go back to exactly where I came from. That first day in the city wanting to make films, standing on the street with a suitcase, I go back to there. But I don't go further back.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, it's just the same thing. It's like, that's what I think connects us
So
somewhere.
this kind of absolute fearlessness and determination that you're going to make it
No,
work
it's like-
regardless. Is that it?
No, deep down there's an absolute love for filmmaking, cinema. And it is regardless, in the sense I know that I will want to be making films all my life. All the other things that I did along the way was I was trying to do things and other filmmakers, so that when there are more other filmmakers and more distinct, different voices,
Yeah.
I will have the longevity to keep making films.
Lovely. No, it's building an ecosystem.
Yes.
That's what all of you
I will
been
have the
doing,
longevity
actually,
to
all
keep
of
making
you.
films. The more independent voices are there, the more I'll make films. Easier it will become for me.
Sure.
Because when I started at a time, there was just no ground to play on. So it's like that. And it's like 30 years later when I see Natesh and seeing the choices he makes, so I go back to the table thinking that I'm actually pretty cushioned now.
In what sense? In terms of your career, you mean?
No, in terms of my filmmaking, I'm pretty cushioned compared to him.
Really?
In the sense, he has to make the choices before he makes the film. I can make the choices while making the films, after I made the films. So I'm saying, why compare myself to those filmmakers who are making multi-million-dollar movies? Why not compare myself to Natesh and see how privileged I am?
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
True.
so those are the things that you learn. And when I see, like, you know, and when I didn't see Pedro on a big screen. And there's another observation I had yesterday when I saw his father again for the first time on big screen. I was like, his father has a Bresson face.
Really?
He has a Bresson face.
Yeah.
His face is a landscape. You can see his entire life journey on his face. And then I saw Natesh, and I was trying to see how he will age. Will he age like his father? Will he look as beautiful and gorgeous?
Yeah, it's
So
really
the
wonderful.
No, it's like, it's amazing what things you watch in a film, what you take back. Like the girl who played Pati, the face just wouldn't leave me all night.
Yeah. I think that meant for.
And
many.
it's there, and it's just the pathos and everything else. It did not need words, and I know that I'm a very good dialogue writer. And yesterday when I saw his film, I said his economy was so good. I was like, do I really need dialogues to say things?
Yeah.
You know, there's so much to take back from, and this duel in your head about what you feel you know and what you feel you don't understand is very important sometimes. The war that keeps going on.
Because you're saying you're a better artist when you're still searching. Is that what you mean? No. What do you mean by that?
No. I think I would be very scared if there comes a day where I feel like I know everything.
Okay.
It'll be scary. Be very scary. But the thing is, like, his film did that to me, which a lot of other films won't do. Look, there are a lot of other films who were like differently aspirational, in the sense that you aspire not for the voice, but you aspire for the cushioning, you aspire for the privileges, you aspire for everything in filmmaking. What his film did to me was, again, that, you know, you start questioning everything and you start aspiring for the distinction in the language that you speak in.
Absolutely. No, it's something to be cherished and defended. No? Yeah. Jeremy, I wanted to ask you, this film, APM would have been one of the few labs that it went to, but it was a producer's thing.
It was also in
Film Bazaar.
In Film Bazaar, but usually a lot of films in India, the more international, aspirational ones that assume they'll have a life on the circuit mainly, on the festival circuit, a lot of them go to a lot of script labs, get very polished. You have a French and a German and a Japanese and somebody telling you what you should do. Like Lunchbox was multinational producers, and I'm guessing each one gives advice or suggestions how it should be or what to do. and then you have a very polished film that works all over the world. For me, what really works is that it is raw, and for me, very, not unpolished, but it doesn't have that international polish, and that's why it appeals to me. But to you as a creative producer, can you expand a little more on this idea of what labs are able to do? Because it's become like a conveyor belt in a way, like industrially producing indie films for the circuit, etc. So can you tell me a little about that?
I think some
Ranjan is
films,
smiling away.
some films work with that model.
Sorry?
Some films work with that model, I think. But I learned from producing Saad's film, Rihanna. What happened?
He's talking about Mohammad Abdul Saad from Bangladesh, who made Rihanna Mariam Nu, that was at Cannes, fantastic
Yeah.
from Bangladesh, which Jeremy had
So
also backed.
in that film, we actually had a French co-producer, and you know, in the film when Rihanna turns on the perpetrator and she accuses him falsely, and she becomes the perpetrator herself.
Yeah.
The French were like, "Oh no, that's not gonna be a good look. She's gonna be a bad woman." And they told us, "Can you change that back to the original, which is more like a whodunit? Like, was it the guy? Was it someone else?" And I had conveyed the message to Saad, and Saad very calmly explained, you know, these people, they have no idea. When you push to a limit in my country, you are not just gonna back that. You're not gonna be a good woman. You're going to. I mean, there's anger, and I think he had that anger, and I kind of felt like, from the French perspective, who was more concerned about, I need to check boxes to get CNC. I mean, not to put it in a bad way, but they had strategy.
Sure.
And Saad told me, really don't do it, because he knows what the script needed to elevate to that level, to change the stakes, so to speak. And I think one thing I learned also is like, trust. If you trust the director, you just trust that if they tell you it's that way, you don't say the GPS says it's that way. You say, yes, I believe it's this way. You know?
This is lovely.
And the same thing happened to me with another South Asian director.
I want to know how you handle this tricky thing with the French producer.
We stopped the co-production actually.
Ooh.
So that's why.
But bravo for you! Imagine to stand by the director.
We decided that.
Oh wow. Yeah, but this is fantastic.
Yeah, we didn't.
Wow.
And
this is how art flourishes, right? To have loyal
No, but
allies.
it was another South
Very
Asian
tricky one.
director. It was Deepak Raunia who told me once, like, because we were in a meeting with the French, there was a Norwegian, there was me, and and at some point of time, the Europeans, they can be quite
Yes. Bullying.
persuasive. They can be quite. And he told me separately, like in a private way, without the others, that sometimes he feels that doesn't anyone want to hear what the director has to say anymore?
Yeah.
And I just felt, oh my God, have I become so tuned to know how the wheel works? To know that, okay, first check the lab, then check the market, then check the sales, then get the EPs, then get the programmer. At some time, why do we believe in that system? I think we are also I don't know, like we are taught to take the simplest way out sometimes.
Because that process is set in motion.
And you sort of can not guarantee, but you can you have a path to follow, so to speak.
Correct.
And I think recently, like Cocoon director Tianan is also a non-filmmaker. Saad is also a non-film school filmmaker.
Yeah.
I've begun to really like these directors with that kind of gut, that kind of extra thick gut.
Yeah.
That they're not there to
Fantastic.
conform, they're there to imprint. And I think
lovely.
you just have to. I think that I've learned to go with eyes closed. I know my expertise. When I have to jump in, I jump in.
Yeah.
When I don't, I go with the flow of the director
Wonderful.
nowadays.
That's fantastic because it allows a lot of individual voices to come. But Ranjan was smiling away. Tell us about this indie circuit, this circuit of festivals, and also whether sometimes being at a festival brands a film in a certain way. What is the impact does it automatically open up the Indian market, for example, and worldwide, of course? And can it be a tricky thing? And because you were smiling to what he said, I really want to hear your viewpoint.
So actually, I was smiling about the whole indie thing because there's a lot of films which gets made, under the whole indie thing.
Yeah.
The main thing I feel is, for an indie, the story needs to be in that spirit. You're trying to tell a story which probably a studio film will never tell.
Yeah.
That I think
Correct.
to me still remains, the thing. About the festival thing, yes, it can get tricky. But that's exactly where the communication, the PR, the pitch, everything comes in. What do you do with the film festival entry? What do you do with the film festival reception?
Right.
How do you take it and how do you transform it? Not taking any examples, like for example, I can talk about India. There are a lot of films which go to film festivals, and if you see the way they reach the audience, like the way probably the poster is, or probably the way the trailer is, or anything of that sort, also tends to become very, they tend to make it very film festivalish to say,
Yes, yeah.
But the point is, see, you never make a film for a film festival. A film festival is
Only a means.
it's a mean, right, to take it to a wider audience,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But if I'm going to take that badge and wear it for a different reason, then probably you are doing disservice to your own film,
And to the audience.
and to the audience, right? So that's where probably the biggest challenge is. You go to a festival, and again, like for a simple thing, I don't want to be boasting here, but like if anybody who say back in India, again I'll say, people who talk about film festivals, I don't think anybody even knows how many categories are there in film festival.
They don't even
Like,
know
do
to
even
Google.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you even know that there are public screenings, there are commercial screenings in a film festival?
Yeah.
So
And
what?
Berlin is very public. Actually.
Yes. So
Everyone's complaining you can't get tickets.
Correct.
The public is bound to
and the kind of films that have been discovered from here, or for that matter from any other festival, so that information and what do you do with it is very important. So, yeah, but if you don't do that, it does get tricky, and then probably you distance the film away from its audience. But if you take that information, or you take, like I said, the reception, for example, what you like I gave the example of Masan earlier, Gangs.
Yes.
Gangs till
was
date, I think
Anurag's
the
film, yeah.
biggest marketing peg still remains the gamchas in the Cannes film festivals.
Yeah, that's true.
It's such a
That is true.
harmless,
That's
inexpensive
visual.
idea.
Yeah.
But
these were these
yes,
cards that
but the emotion it
remains,
transforms to the audience is, the Firangs are wearing our gamcha, which means they've loved our film.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that information is the thing.
Lovely.
And these are very, very insights, which we have learned over the years. Like right now, just saying, oh, my film is going to this festival, that probably is not really going to help.
Yeah.
What it does there, how do you use that information, how do you take it? Like I said, even posters, trailers, you have to make it more accessible. Like I have always believed cinema is probably the only art which has come after technology. All other art
that's
forms
true.
were always
Industrial
there.
revolution.
But so the use of technology and what you're going to do with it, is the thing. But if you take that and you want to make it for yourself only, then it can be tricky.
Tricky one. Thank you. Anurag, quick question. Where do you see independent cinema going? Because it kind of after COVID, it's like I mean, this is really shorthand, but like the cinemas tend to have, or the audiences tend to go only if there's big spectacle. They're relatively reluctant to go to the cinema to see independent films in general, or they'll, theek hai, we'll wait for Netflix and Amazon. I mean, they're becoming lazier and lazier because of this bad habit that came during COVID. So is that a long-term challenge for you with this film, but also all the films that you work with? What is the future you see?
I have stopped trying to look into the future.
Okay.
I'm like, no, literally, I'm not Nostradamus at all.
Okay.
I can talk about problems that I face or
Sure.
filmmakers are facing.
Sure.
I can talk about solutions that I can figure out, but I don't know where the future, because I don't understand a lot of new things in the sense. This short formats, people watching things, like in the sense, for me, I wanted to be a filmmaker because I loved watching movies on big screen.
Yes, that's the whole point.
I catch films at the festival because I hate the interruptions caused by intervals back home, and with all those things, and everybody's posturing of this is bad for health, this is bad for mind, this is bad for this, that, everything.
Yeah.
So that destroys my movie watching experience. So I want to enjoy watching movies. I want to enjoy making films, and I actually leave it to people who know and understand and can navigate better. Because if you ask me, I've gone back to my whole process. 10 years back, 2010, 15 years back, I would have probably said that, this is what we need to do. Today I don't understand. This world has changed a lot, and I am now back to finding my place in it.
Wow, so radical.
I'm back to finding my space in it, and I want to stick to like what I want to do, but I'm willing to work backwards. I'm willing to go backwards and work backwards to go forward.
His film is also quite distinctive from your body of work. What do you envisage?
Everything that I will not do is done.
I'm saying, what kind of an audience do you imagine this might find in India?
I don't know. For me, it's like I always think that you are your first audience. So I don't know if that film impacts me. It will also impact a lot of other people who probably watch movies like me, and I can very easily say this much, that I'm not alone. Who enjoys a certain kind of cinema.
Yeah.
And my hope to reach out to them and say that experience this won't be wasted.
Absolutely.
So
lovely.
because literally I really don't know where anything is headed. There could be a Halley's Comet tomorrow, I don't know.
So Natesh, last question to you. I really, really, really admire that your parents allowed you to, or allowed anybody to make films. Anyone here? Anyone?
Nobody allows him.
See? So, and your
He
parents...
allowed himself to.
Yeah, I think so. How did you carve out the space? And to go back and ask you a very basic question: why do you make movies? But first, your parents. How did you first tell them that you want to make this? How old were you when you?
No,
what
it was.
had you studied at that point?
I'm a science graduate.
Yeah.
Then I did journalism.
Yeah.
But I never explained them about what I'm going to do. It was like they treated me like an adult. So, that scene is in my next film, so that's I'm not telling it.
Okay.
Yeah, you ask me where the courage comes from.
Yeah.
That is the courage. You are in this word, and you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I make film because I can't help it. I have to.
Oh, this
I
is
don't
so
know.
lovely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the answer.
People who are consumed by what they do now, they'll never feel like you just go on, whatever
Too fantastic.
might come.
Too fantastic. So thank you to each of you, Anurag, Natesh, Jeremy, Ranjan. We were so delighted with the world premiere and the response to it, and we wish you a long and happy innings. And we're really waiting for you to conquer the world, but really also to find a warm audience in India. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.